Good morning. Yeah, stuff has changed quite a bit since we spoke last week. Last week we had a bit of a chat about the violence that's currently running through South Africa. And it looks like the violence is slowly or softened down or became less. If it's going to happen again, we don't know. And we aren't going to take that view this morning. But the thought was that people still need to leave South Africa. And why that thought? Since Sunday morning, we had nearly 500 new applications to our Facebook page. So it's absolutely hectic out there. Suddenly people want to leave the country with more haste. And this morning, to help us make up our decision on where to go, we are joined by Vanita. Vanita, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Jan. Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are all well. Thank you for having me.
I've got to say this, Vanita has got family in KZN, very dear family to her. So they weren't badly affected by the riots, but our heart still goes out to them the whole time.
Yeah, no, thank you.
As with
thank you,
anybody else that is caught up there. So
yeah, it was a difficult week last week, I think, for a lot of people who are in New Zealand or offshore. I think we just felt the anxiety, the stress that everybody was experiencing, and but thankfully it's quietened down. But yes, we've been inundated with a lot of queries as well.
So when the riots started, we had heaps of people joining the Facebook pages, and I just had a count this morning. I don't often count this because I was working my ass off just getting new people or the right people on the page. So we had 446 new people since Sunday. So that's a new amount for me, but it shows me there is really big problems out there. So
yeah. And I think people are sort of slowly going, that's probably the push, with immigration for them. So, yeah. So I know that your question was, or your topic was, if New Zealand is not the country, then where else? Okay.
What then?
Okay, so pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about New Zealand, Australia, and a bit about Canada, because I have a dear colleague in Canada who's an immigration advisor there. So I had a chat to him yesterday just to find out and get a bit off the feel of what's going on. So we'll
come up in this point here. You are allowed to do Australia as well.
Correct, yeah, because I'm licensed to both New Zealand and Australia, so I'm across those two. Yep. And then I spoke to my colleague in Canada. So, so we've also been inundated with queries and so on as to how can we get, jobs. I've seen a lot of people also signing up with immigration advisors and so on. And hey, look, that is your personal choice. But I think my main concern is the borders are closed, and the borders are not only closed in New Zealand, it's closed in Australia, it's closed in Canada. So what do you do? What occupations are allowed in? What can you do now? That's really, I think, what people are sort of looking at, and probably they want to see some progress or, progression towards their immigration journey, I suppose. So we'll start with New Zealand, okay? So we've had 29 changes since January of this year to now, to date. That's about 4.14 lots of changes every single month if you look at the 7 months. And we've literally had 8 lots of immigration policy changes just in July. So if people feel like my New Zealand advisor doesn't know what they're talking about, they don't know what's going on, I know more. Sorry, we do run around like headless chicken going, what the hell is going on now? And getting your head around the policies and so on. Okay. So the queries are, and I suppose people have said, what occupations are allowed in, okay, right. And who is allowed in. I suppose New Zealand has continued and will probably continue to remain closed until 2023. And the reason why I say probably mid-2023 is because of the latest changes that were announced on Friday and implemented on Monday of this week. And that is, like they had this whole big conversation about the immigration reset, which made no sense to us because it was still about high remuneration, highly skilled. But then on Monday or Friday of last week, they say, right, we are going to allow low-skilled or people below the median wage of $27 an hour to get 2-year work visas. Yeah. Not 6 months, not a year, it's 2 years. with no police clearances, no medicals, and so on. Okay, if you've been, and obviously with those people in country. So what that's telling us or indicating is that they want to keep those people here. They don't want those people to leave because they're not going to get anybody new.
Yeah.
And pretty much the only way people can actually come into the country is if there's a border exemption or an employer border exemption. And that's really where you need to actually look at. So the occupations still remain the same.
There probably can't be a lot of these employer exemptions.
There are for infrastructure. There's a lot of infrastructure projects and so on. So they're critical to the country and the growth. But most of the border exemptions are actually given to only temporary visa holders. So they're coming in for like between six weeks to under 6 months. They come in to install equipment, because they're highly skilled. They're coming in to commission equipment. They're coming in to commission various bits of projects and so on. And they're pretty much going after that, right? Okay. And a lot of these people are coming from countries that are, like, for instance, like the European countries. So they're not coming in from India, they're not coming from South Africa, or China. They're coming in from those European countries, where we buy our big pieces of equipment and so on. So those are the people that are coming in. New Zealanders are obviously coming in. If their partners are able to, they're coming in as well. But other than that, only critical and non-critical workers are coming in. And those critical workers are medical staff. And then there's cohorts of non-critical workers where the government is slowly going, okay, we need X amount of construction workers to come in. We need X amount of teachers to come in and so on. That's all that's coming in.
Okay. But I mean, these aren't, I saw that post about 300 teachers that they need.
Yeah.
They aren't going to fill that all at one time.
Well, what's going to happen is so firstly, you've got to get registration with the Teaching Council. That's your first step. The other step is you actually have to get nomination from the Ministry of Education. How that works, I'm not too sure how that nomination would work. And you have to have a job offer. Now, they haven't provided exact details of what that, the positions are going to be and so on. Yeah. But they have said those positions are going to be in decile 1 and 2 schools. So if people don't know about the deciles and the way it works in schools, is decile 1 is the lowest socioeconomic schools, which get the maximum what do you say, grants or what's the word, from the government, funding from the government. That's the word, funding, right. And decile 10 schools are usually the high socioeconomic schools where they get the least amount of funding from the Ministry of Education. So they are looking for 300 teachers to fill the decile 1, decile 2 schools, as well as the early childhood schools as well. Okay. So where teachers may think, okay, I can choose my school, I don't think you can. You will get put into a particular school. Yeah. Obviously, there's no meat around that. I've looked at the Ministry of Education website as well, and there's nothing really around that, or I may have missed it because there may be consultation papers out for that. That's where those teachers are coming in. And it's between now and the nominations happen between, I think, September and June of 2022. You can bring your family in, but your visas are only going to be valid for 1 year. So be aware of that, okay? I don't know how that 1 year will actually relate to residence, if that's obviously what people, and especially South Africans, are seeking.
So, if I can't come to New Zealand,
where do you go? So, okay. Looking at the Australian market, they have a planning range, and they've obviously spoke about their planning range at the beginning of this year. We have no planning range. When I say we, as in New Zealand, has no planning range, because we haven't set that. We haven't set that in bloody 2020 of January. Sorry, it just frustrates me. So we don't even know what we're working towards. It's a stab in the dark. Australia set their planning range to 160,000 at the beginning for 2020 to 2021. Okay, and they reduced some numbers and increased other numbers. So, like, they reduced the skilled migrant category, the independent category, quite significantly. And I think if I look at the figures, that was about it was about 16,000 odd. But so they're bringing in 160,000 new migrants, and that's what their planning range is. Their focus is on the Business Innovation and Investment Program. So that's talking about money, and there's various categories in that. There are two. That's the A and the B category, which is the 188 or the 888 visas, right? Which is points tested, and you have to be below the ages of 55, and you get points based on the amount of money you bring in and so on. And that's the lowest amount of money you can bring in. That's about 800,000 Australian dollars that needs to be invested for 4 years. All right.
Okay. So for 800,000 Australian dollars, and I'm below the age of 55, I can probably get residence in Australia.
Correct. If you meet all the point system and so on of that, so you've got to meet all the criteria of that. Okay. Then if you obviously over 55, but you've got money, then obviously the money goes up to 2.5 million to maximum 5 million. All right.
Okay.
And though that's not points tested, but you need to bring in your money to invest in certain programs and so on. Obviously, that money needs to be accounted for, needs to be legit and so on. And after 4 years, you're pretty much on a pathway to residence. So you can come in, you can work, you can go if you want to, overseas, run your businesses overseas, but you've pretty much invested that money. So that's their focus. The other focus that they have is their employer nominated scheme. And that's actually quite a good scheme because it's also regional based as well. So if you get a nomination from an employer saying, I want to give you this job because they've been approved by the state in Australia, then you get the job offer and then you can apply for your visa and then you can come in. So there's no sort of cutoff, and each state has a lot of occupations that they've nominated as the critical, workers in those states. So it's actually quite a robust set of occupations. There's also the priority migration occupation list where that's throughout the country, and there's about 44 occupations in that. So you can work pretty much anywhere, but then you've got the employer nomination scheme where you get nominated and you can go in with a job offer and go in and work. And that's a direct pathway again to residence. You also have the global talent. So they're focusing on global talent. So you have to be like phenomenal in your field, recognized sort of worldwide. If you meet all the criteria of that, they're actually got a program for that as well. So residence is being granted on those pretty much categories.
What does global talent mean? If I think talent, I think somebody that's singing or Pavarotti or one of these boys.
Exactly. It's those sorts of people in those fields. You've got sports people, you've got people in media and so on. You've got people, obviously, probably like in innovators as well. So you have space and technology and all those people. That's what they're looking at. Okay, so for the global talent, because
so Elon Musk can go to Australia as well.
Absolutely. So those are the things that they're looking for, and you just have to show and demonstrate that yes, you've got that. Residency is being granted for some of these people in like 45 days. Because Australia is scooping these people up, knowing that we need these people to grow our economy, to create jobs and so on. So they are literally, very fast with actually processing these applications.
They actually want the people there.
They want them there, but they want the right sort of people. Now, just remember with Australia, though, it works a little bit different from New Zealand in the sense that you need to have a positive skills assessment. So make sure you have a qualification and you go through whichever cohort for the assessment and get a positive skills assessment. And you also need to do your English language as well and meet the English language proficiency. All right. So if, for instance, like I've looked at this is on just the priority migration occupation list. You have accountants, chartered accountants, management accountants. Okay, each one, and that's just on the top of the list. Each one of those needs to go and get their skills assessed, their degrees, assessed and so on. So they need to go to their specific cohort to be able to do that and get that assessed. Then do the English language. Then you already have that. Then you can go, for instance, like the employer nomination scheme and go, okay, I want to, I've got a positive skills assessment. I've got everything in place. Can I get nominated? You get nominated, you get the job offer, pretty much you're on track to actually leaving South Africa. So that's where that is. Yeah. So that is probably more, it seems more open, even though their borders are closed. They are letting certain skills in, way more than what we are letting in. Sorry, do you want to go to questions, Jan? Maybe people have popped up some
I've got a few
questions.
questions. Got one on the other side asking, what about correction officers?
Okay, that's always been, and on the ANSCO for New Zealand and Australia, it's always been a skill level 4. So those people, like, if you came in at the right time on the accredited employer talent visa, people are on their way to getting residence. Currently, that's gone, and sorry, that's a no-no. Unfortunately, you'll struggle to get residence on that.
So if anybody's got any questions, I think now's the time to drop them.
So somebody asked, are they letting construction
workers in? So,
well, you know what? I think you need to actually have the skills. You need to be highly remunerated. You probably need to get that employer exemption. So you need to approach big companies like Fulton Hogan's and the big construction companies like Fletcher's and so on. They already have employer exemptions in existence for these cohort of workers. So you may be able to get in through that way. You won't be able to get in on your own.
Husband is an electrician and I'm a teacher for New Zealand.
I know those occupations require registration and that's fine. But I'll tell you what, we're getting calls from employers going, we need plumbers who need, who require occupational registration. We need people to do work. We've got millions of dollars worth of projects. They cannot get people in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And look, there's unless there was a border exemption, or letting people in, sorry, you cannot get in at all.
Same question, basically. What about carpenter, cabinet maker? I've noted exemption.
No, sorry.
No.
Employers are crying out for people, and New Zealand have just went, sorry, no can do. Look, with Australia,
it's a massive problem. There's not enough guys to work in this country.
No, and yesterday I was talking to an employer that said we've employed people. We have, New Zealanders who are not up to scratch. We have to do remedial, work with them. We've got employment issues with them, but we have no choice but to work with them. So it's causing a lot of pain points for employers.
It is. That's a good one. Do we apply now or wait till 2023?
You can wait, but what you can do is get all your paperwork ready, and that's really, I think, where people are sort of looking at. And look, you can apply to Australia, absolutely, if you're able to get into any one of those categories. By all means, you can. The thing is to get ready or to get your documents or document ready, what you need is your birth certificates, your marriage certificates, your obviously passports. You also need, like with your skills assessment, maybe if you're looking at New Zealand, go through either NZQA or one of the 11 industry training organizations that we have if you're a tradie. Okay.
That's right.
If you're a teacher, there's obviously nursing council, there's a teachers council, there's medical council, all those different bits for all those other occupations as well.
That's right.
In Australia, each state has their own, so you need a positive skills assessment. So maybe you should go and do your positive skills assessment and your English language test done as well to be ready for immigrating. That's the only thing you really can do.
This comes from both sides. What's the cut-off age for immigration to Australia? 45.
Yes, okay, so it's always been, they changed it to 45, maybe about 2 years ago, or maybe over 2 years ago, and that's when people sort of jumped over and said, okay, New Zealand's our best bet. Obviously, New Zealand is still at 55, but don't be surprised that when we open residence, that may change. Okay. My opinion, okay?
What about construction project manager and supply chain logistic manager?
Again, if you don't get a border exemption, you cannot come in. So, sorry, border exemption, approach the employers, find out if they do have that. If they don't, then you have to just wait, unfortunately.
Looks like New Zealand will be much harder to get in than Australia. I can get in as a plumber fast in Australia than New Zealand. That's the way to go then. That's the way to go. I mean, if you can get in faster, just go. So exactly.
And if you meet the age, you meet everything else, why not? What if you have an LLB and find work in correction services? You can find work. You're not going to get a job offer. You're not going to get employer exemption, or border exemption unless the employer does it for you and says why they need it.
LLB's got nothing to do. That's for lawyers.
Exactly. Exactly, and I'm just thinking, why would you have an LLB and work as a prison officer? You probably go into law, most likely, or you may be in one of the higher positions at corrections, for instance.
All right, this is a question. Can I go visit my sister in Auckland from South Africa? The answer is probably no.
No, and probably for a very long time as well.
Yeah,
so
because that's a visitor's visa. So.
Yes, exactly. And visitors are shut off. I mean, really, we shut off all our students, to come into New Zealand, and that's killed the entire market. So visitors, no. Let's see. Are you seeing?
Or are you aware of people leaving New Zealand for other countries? The big answer here is yes.
Yes. A lot of people are going, yes, look, New Zealand doesn't want me. New Zealand doesn't appreciate me. You've probably seen the media as well. A lot of people, if they can get jobs, and they are getting jobs in Australia, are going over to Australia.
Yeah. Already have an EWRB limited certification as an electrician. What is the changes?
There are no changes with regards to the registration, but it's just that you can't get in, unfortunately. So you're holding the certificate. You obviously may need to, or most likely need to do 500 hours. And until you get a job offer and a border exemption, or let's just say a border exemption job offer, you can't come in, unfortunately.
So just hang in there. Renate asking, for how long do you foresee this border closure to stay closed?
Mid-2023. That's my guess. Looking at the government, looking at the writing on the wall, look, the way the government approaches things is they rather shut off New Zealand, and they can, because we are an island, and just make do with the people that are here. But I think the cracks are starting to show with regards to the economy and so on. I mean, I just read this morning that the America's Cup had a God knows how many millions of dollar losses, in the America's Cup. But they found that as, a priority.
Goodness me.
So my opinion of the
IT sector employment in New Zealand at present.
Look, I'll tell you what, in the IT and T sector, people and recruiters are crying out for people. People are literally job hopping because they are able to get jobs and more money, pretty much. Unfortunately, they just can't get people coming in to fill roles and niche market or niche roles as well. And that's the problem, because the government just does not want to bring anybody in.
Is there still hope for people who haven't applied for residency yet?
I don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball to be able to tell you that. And really, we don't know when the EOI pool is going to open. Already, the median wage is $27 an hour. So anybody who cannot meet that have fallen off or will fall off. Age as well would be a criteria as well. So we don't know, because people are getting older. It's been shut for over a year. People have already passed certain ages, so their points have dropped. So unfortunately, we don't know.
Last question. When do you reckon the borders will open for Australia?
It all depends. I mean, obviously, Australia has a pandemic again, so they're fighting the Delta virus. With Australia, though, look, while their borders remain shut, they still, they don't have the issue of, or they have some issues about split families, but they haven't treated split families the way New Zealand has treated split families, which is a crying shame for New Zealand. It's embarrassing, to be honest. When the borders will open, it really depends, because it could be based on states as well. So we don't know. They will probably keep it closed. But look, there are more opportunities if you get employer sponsored, if you can meet the investment criteria, if you you have global talent people as well, you are able to still get in. It's much more open. Okay.
Natasha asking, which is the best website to see all the requirements needed?
Best website? I don't know, because we have so many changes. Australia has just as much legislative changes as what we do. But the only thing is, though, they haven't changed policy as such. They've just announced changes around maybe certain criteria. I can't really comment, but like we have made policy changes, like strong policy changes. I don't know, because we have libraries that we look at, that we pay for and look at with legislative changes and so on. Whereas the layman may not have that. Look, with New Zealand, the ops manual is open. If you look at the amendment circulars, you can see if you search in amendment circular on the New Zealand website, you'll be able to see where those changes are.
Yeah. Got a question on the other side asking, Lanka Walters asking, I have all my paperwork done since last year, March, and I was on my way. I'm a teacher. What should I do now? Should I apply for DSL 1 schools or wait?
Well, so if you already have your teacher registration and there is some bits and pieces about having a job offer or having already had your having already had your application accepted. If you fall in that category, then you can actually go in, to the Ministry of Education and apply. Maybe you want to contact me offline and I can give you the link for where you can actually start that. So you can go through and then send your application through the Ministry of Ministry of Education for that.
That's right.
Should I talk about?
Sorry, I've got to ask for something. I actually wanted to ask this from the start of the program. I see a heck of a lot of immigration advisors are now suddenly taking deposits from people like crazy.
I know, and I find that it's unethical. It's a personal thing. We do have an ethics code, and personally for me, I find that unethical. And that is my personal opinion. And I haven't taken anybody from overseas unless I can actually assist them. And I've literally closed my business from overseas people anyway. Look, they're going to tell you borders are going to open. And I saw a lot of people saying February 2022. The government said that, but they changed things like you wouldn't believe. I mean, we have 29 changes. Look, if it's not in policy, it's just on their website. It's just an indication. If they've already made changes, to low-skilled 2-year work visas which is taking them until mid-June 2023, that's what it's telling you. That's when you're looking at borders opening.
Interesting one. Hi, I was admitted as a lawyer in the Supreme Court of Western Australia in 2019. Further, I have siblings in Perth, sisters as citizens, blah blah blah. Kindly advise on my prospects of immigration.
I have seen that, and with regards to that, if you have been admitted, as like I spoke about the employer nomination scheme and so on, just remember you don't have a job offer. You've got your skills assessment, you've been admitted and so on, but you don't have the job offer. That's what you'd really need to get, is the job offer, okay, with a law firm or any other company that's looking for those people. If you don't mind, I'll talk about Canada very briefly. And Canada seems, again, the borders are closed with Canada. They have not done the split families like the way New Zealand has. They've actually, they've never had split families. Canada has a planning range for immigration of 400,000 per annum currently, and they've only taken 180,000 people. As of the middle of, or I should say on the 19th of August, or because they'll have 80% of the population vaccinated, and that's the first lot of vaccinated, MIQ will no longer be required for Canada, right? And by that date, 50% will already be fully vaccinated. Okay. New Zealand is only on 11%, right? So that again tells you we need to pay for MIQ. Okay, yes, I would believe so. If you are looking at immigration and you have access to go and get vaccinated, please go and get vaccinated. Otherwise, you won't even be able to travel even for a visit. Okay. That's right. Look, but people have their opinions about vaccinations. That's not my, that's not the forum. Just with regards to Canada, and that was actually very interesting. Okay. They have said that they will take in people that have nominations for job offers. So pretty much they call it, sorry, I'll just look at my paper here. It's called the Labour Market Impact Assessment. So if you have a third-party agency nominating you for a job, you're able to get in on that. So if you get a job offer, it's pretty much similar to the employer nominated scheme in Australia. If you're able to get that, you're able to get a work permit. What Canada has actually done is they've actually allowed or are allowing students to come in. Now, I know we talk about students and the exorbitant amounts of money that they have to pay, but talking to my colleague in in Canada, he said that students only need between 15 to 20,000 per annum in tuition fees, all right. And the 20K, and this is Canadian dollars, the 20K is at the high end. And you need 10K of living expenses. Okay, so it's far cheaper, and they are allowing students in. With students coming in, they've actually given students permanent residence. So they had a massive drive a few months ago, and he literally worked like 22 hours in that day. The first drive was if anybody with a work visa in Canada, whether it was low-skilled or high-skilled, okay, they pretty much, if they were even working 20 hours a week, not even full-time, they gave 40,000, hang on a second. 40,000 spaces were available for those people to get residence, and they granted residence to those people. So those spaces filled up. So he worked a 22-hour day to help as many people as he could to actually fill up those spaces. Then they had 30,000 spaces available for students who were in Canada, who were studying in Canada, that could apply for residence, and they filled up those spaces. So there was a massive drive. So right now there's a massive drive for students to come in, and that's the only way, people that are really, really coming in. Students to come in. The fees don't, the tuition fees don't even seem exorbitant, like compared to ours, which is like 30K plus, living expenses and so on. Okay. So they're able to come in and actually go in and get residence. So if you're looking at your children and trying to find a way out for your children, maybe look at Canada and the student market.
All right. That's a lot of hope out there. And I mean, the fact that Canada is not taking up the slack shows me they are really honest and earnest about this, and they really want to make this work.
Exactly. And especially with them having 400,000 spaces and they've only filled 180, there'll be a big drive again to fill as many people as they can. Yeah. And they haven't sort of went, oh, we're only taking highly skilled, like the cream of the crop. They've given those low-skilled onshore people a chance to apply for permanent residence as well.
That's right.
And they haven't discriminated like the way New Zealand has, which is so unfortunate and embarrassing for the country.
Yeah. All right. Our time has come and gone.
Yes.
Vanita,
thank you.
I just want to say something. If you are really thinking of leaving, and I know somebody has made the comment here, there's other countries, Thailand, Malaysia, I know Uruguay, Paraguay, all of these countries. But if you're really thinking of leaving, don't take New Zealand as the only country out there. There is a lot of other countries that's probably currently more willing to help you get out of South Africa than New Zealand is willing to allow you to enter New Zealand. So that's a sad fact. But all right, thanks a lot. Thanks for your participation this morning. Once again, we had a good chat, and I think people are a bit more informed now about what to expect from the future as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. What I'll do is I'll go to the questions and I'll see if I can answer them, you know, if we didn't get to them. So yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Vanita. There's some on my personal page as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right, guys and girls, thanks a lot for listening to us again this morning. Yeah. Enjoy your day, and we're out of here. See ya.